Hey, hello everybody. Welcome back to the shop. I got a package in the mail today. Let's open this thing up and see what it is. Itty bitty small little box. Any guesses? Came from China. Bubble wrapped. It's vacuum sealed. I guess they wanted this to stay fresh. It is an F-Theta lens. M60 is the wavelength. 1064 nanometers. 300 is the focal. 300 is the size of the lens. 420 is the focal length, 420 millimeters. Okay, I've got a 300 millimeter lens now. And this camera is looking directly up into my galvo. Those two mirrors right there, you do not want to touch those mirrors, period. Some people ask how you clean these mirrors. You do not clean these mirrors. You shouldn't ever have to. They should be covered pretty much all the time unless you're swapping out a lens. So we're going to go ahead and slide this in very carefully. Let me show you this real fast. You can see that these two lenses are the same height. Maybe the 300 might even be a little bit thinner because that ring on the bottom right there is thinner. I took this one out, so I know this one will not hit the mirrors because it's shorter. There's the underside of my galvo. I'm going to unscrew it a little bit so I can't get them threads lined up. There we go. Nope, thought it was it. There we go. Got a couple threads going now. A lot of threads there. I've got them locked in place now. Now, if you're unsure how thick that lens is, how far it might go up in there, you can always take this entire ring loose. Some of your new lenses may come with this ring. Mine did not come with a ring. But I have seen some that do come with the ring. There's a lot of threads on that ring. And that ring right there, you can see, it's flush with the edge of the lens. That's another way to tell that lens will not touch those mirrors in there. And there is a little room up there. Those mirrors do not come flush with the edge of the galvos. There's a little bit of room in there. We'll put the ring back into place. And there's my new lens installed. Now I've got to find the exact point of focus. A couple ways to do that. First, you want to make sure it's tight, because I mean, no sense in trying to focus it if it's not even tight. From what I am told, a 300 millimeter lens will work on a 500 millimeter tower as long as your material is flat and thin. You're not going to get any. You're not going to be doing tumblers on a 500 millimeter tower. But let's find our focal distance. I know it's going to be pretty tall, so we're going to go ahead and crank on it a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and raise this sucker up quite a bit. And then we're going to do some test firing until we find the proper focal distance. I know it's probably way up here. The lens says 420 millimeters. So I'm going to break out my digital tape measure and we're going to measure that. I've got my digital tape measure on top of my material and it is shooting a laser beam. Normally when I'm focusing my 150 millimeter lens, I'm aiming to the bottom of the galvo. I just know where that is because I've done this test on that lens and measured it, and this falls about 270 millimeters for my 150 millimeter lens. But the lens says 420, so I'm going to try to aim right to the edge here, and that's black, so you can't see it on camera very well, but I don't think you can. You see a little red dot. That's what I'm aiming at right now. That says 470 actually. That says 420 millimeters. It says 0.400. Where'd you go? There. It says 0.422 meters. So we're just going to move the decimal point and call it 423 millimeters. Doesn't really matter about that. I'm just getting it in the ballpark. I'm just going to turn this off and we're going to do a test fire. I'm going to see exactly where that focal point is. What I'm going to do, I'm going to create a rectangle. I'm going to put it on the black layer. I'm going to turn the black layer on. And that's what I'm going to shoot for. Get the selector. I'm going to get this coin out of the way. I'm going to hit P on the keyboard. That's going to center that to the center of my workspace inside of LightBurn. Well, I thought it was. I'm going to run this up about 1,000 millimeters a second. I dang sure I'm shooting at 100% power. I'm going to do 40% power, 200 kilohertz, 200 nanoseconds. I'm going to go ahead and do a 0.254 millimeter line interval. And we're going to shoot that right there at this material on my spoil board. That way it's just going to run, it's going to continuously run. While it's running, I'm going to crank the handle up and down very slowly. And I'm going to be watching the material. I'm going to look for the brightest spot and the loudest sound. That will get me in perfect. That'll get me in the perfect focal distance. And I'm just going to listen. We're going to tune it by ear. All right, here we go. Let's hit the fire button. There we are. All right, plumb out of focus. All right, right there at the loudest sound. So I'm going to stop that. We're going to shrink that down now. I'm going to shrink this down to a little bitty spot. P, center it back up. I'm going to run that down to 500 millimeters a second. We'll run this up to 80% power. And we'll see how that affects the metal. We're still going to run continuously. Right there, it's making the loudest sound. So that is in focus right there. The loudest sound I can get. Boom, perfect. I'll run that back and forth a few times just to make sure, especially when I got a loud 3D printer running right behind me. I want to make sure that's in focus. Now that I've got that down, I'm going to go ahead and measure that and find out exactly what that is to the bottom of the galvo. That's what I'm normally used to focusing to, because I've got a much to the bottom of the galvo. I'm getting 496, 495 millimeters. Again, I know it's a decimal and we're looking at meters, but that's 495 millimeters. Now we're going to jot that down in the notebook somewhere. I might engrave that on a piece of slate, even, just so we have that calculation. And just to be sure, I'm going to move that. I'm going to Control D. I'm going to move another square over, and we're going to shoot it again. Run continuously. I just turned my lasers on the galvo head. If you can see them, they're not showing up. Oh yeah, they are. Okay. There's my two lasers on the bottom of the galvo that sets your focus. See how far apart they are for this particular lens. I never use those anymore anyway. I haven't used those in a long time. There's the two marks I made. It's selling out. It is still hitting the bottom of the galvo head now. Remember that. So we ended up on 497 again. I'm gonna do it one more time. I'm gonna put a mark right here, right below those two. I'm gonna measure it one more time. Control V, move it down right here. Frame it. And start. Oh, crap. Thought I broke something. I forgot to hit continuously run. You hear it getting very quiet. It got loud, now it's getting quiet again. That's about as loud as I can get it right there on these settings. So stop that. Put this back up here and measure it again. Feet. How do you get on feet on versus units? Inches, meters, feet, inches, meters. Okay, there. Okay, I did that 3 times and I got 497 millimeters. So we're going to lock that down, 497 millimeters. All right, that's how you set your lens. Now, you look at my tower, I still got that much room to play with. So this tower can come up another 2 3/4 inches. So that's the thickest material that I can engrave using this lens. Not, or the tallest, not necessarily the thickest, but the tallest. I can't go up any higher than 2.5 inches on a part without making some modifications to the table. Now, I could cut me a hole in my spoil board and cut a hole in the table and have a pass through. That's one way to take care of that. But I don't plan on doing that. I plan on doing saw blades. And that's about it. I'd like to thank Jeremy. Jeremy is actually the HTL Customs. He's the one that was explaining to me that a 500 millimeter tower will, in fact, accommodate a 300 millimeter lens as long as the material is pretty much flat with the spoil board. So anyway, I've got a lot of testing to get done. Thank you for watching. Y'all have a great day. Stay tuned for the next one.